Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. It's Monday, it's November 21st. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And really simple day. Not a lot of trades today, I'll be honest with you, but it was a really simple day. We really just had two legs up, is what we had. You got this leg up, your correction, and then a second leg up. If you measure this first one, you can see about what you get there. Drag it over, and we really got a perfect measured move. So real simple. This was a spike and channel up, easy to find that, and then you had a correction here. Finding the reversal was a little bit difficult because you got this trend line working down, and I really thought it was two-tiered, but in the end, I just think we had an overshoot and then a reversal. You see how that fits pretty well there? I believe that to be it, and then we just had a reversal. Um, Doesn't really matter because you get your reversal pattern in here anyway. And if you drew this trend line off these highs right here and you just drag it down, you would have been expecting that reversal. Oops. Right there on the money. You actually could find the two-tiered channel here relatively early. I drew it off this too low, and I drew it perfectly to the I used this low here and then drew it off the closes and drug it up once we made these highs, and it fit perfectly. And then I just found the center point of that. You can see I actually had the center point in line, and when it came down and that gapped right over, I knew right then I had it in the right place. It looked like we were going to go all the way back to the trend line before we went higher, but we really pushed back inside the midline and just worked back to the upper side again. So it didn't matter even if you didn't even have this two-tiered channel. You didn't have to have it if you just use the shorter term ones. That's what I tell. Sometimes people get off on the. I had a guy send me an email this morning, and I might have a channel working up here, and he's got one working down. And just remember that. Notice we're making higher highs and higher lows here. That's an uptrend. Find that trend line and then trade that trend line. Coming down, we really, well, we're just making lower lows here basically on single bars, but then we start making higher highs and higher lows over again. Find that trend line and trade that, and that's what you want to do. So, and that'll keep you on the right side. So this was fairly easy to find today. Um, Not a lot of trades, but you didn't need but one or two. Several of them had runners, so once you found them, they worked pretty well. We had a trade early on, right at the 7 o'clock hour. That was a perfect fail. Notice that new swing low, it's lower than that one. So the first entry short, second entry short. And this looks like a big spike up, so you could expect a possible spike in channel right there. But I'd go long right above that. And that's kind of a breakout pullback from these previous highs as well. So I like that one. And then it pulls back and confirms the trend line right there. It's not a great signal bar. It's right into the high of the day. So I marked it green, but it is really close. Um, that's a lot of times, but that's just so neutral that it's just not a great signal bar. Um, so I'm going to leave it green. Really, you could almost make this one green, but we've been away from the EMA a long time, and we're starting to drift here. You can see we're not getting back to the upper trend line before we get to the lower one. That's not a good sign. Generally, that means you're going to get a break or a reversal pretty quick. But you can see that was the first time we came back to the trend line again, and it would have worked. But I just think you're better off to skip it, and you would have caught this short, and you could have ridden this one all the way down. But notice the reversal pattern here. We didn't shoot through the EMA, but that doesn't matter. You get your break. You tried to go higher twice. It fails. And this actually went out the upper side and turned and went out the low. That's a great setup. You're probably going to get at least a scalp out of that, but this thing just takes off. And you notice there's a little bit, if it would have just ticked higher right there, I would have liked entering right here, but by the time it comes off that trend line and gives you your confirmation, you're stacked up there, you've got a doji in there, you probably could still argue for that one. It is a breakout pullback short. I'm not going to make it red, but if you were trying to be aggressive, I wouldn't be afraid to take that trade. It's a small bar. You're not going to risk much. And, you know, there's a good chance that if you got this channel right, with this turn down right here, there's a chance that we may be coming all the way back down here. So, and if you realize this was an overshoot, I wouldn't be afraid to go long right here on this bar. But honestly, you could draw it and make it fit where it looks like a two-tiered channel. But if if you recognize that's an overshoot, if your chart looks a little bit different than mine, or maybe you had a little better, clearer view that this was definitely a tight channel working down right here, that you could probably go long right there. But you're better off to wait on that reversal pattern, which comes right here. And the only reason this one is not blue is because we already had these two swings. I drew that trend line, and you don't have, if that's right, you don't have a whole lot of room there. And really, you could argue for this being a spiking channel right there. And maybe it is a two-tiered channel. So I was a little leery going long right into those highs right there. It still would have worked. So, but I'm going to make it green for that reason. But when it comes back here to where you're expecting that trend line bounce, and it bounces to the tick off of it, I like going long right there. And this is this is a double bottom here. It's kind of a double test of the breakout area. This was a pretty nice trade. If you caught this one, you could ride this all the way to the top. Then we kind of went sideways again here, but we're just working our way back over to the trend line, and you get another chance to go long right off the trend line, right off the EMA right there. It's a little bit close right here, but at this point, this is looking like a strong trend. Lots of little small bars, and we're just making higher highs and higher lows. Even though we're going sideways here, we're still kind of making higher highs and higher lows. Notice this high is higher than that one. This high is higher than that one. And you got confluence here with the trend line, the EMA. And at this point, you figure we're probably coming back to this line. And that's exactly where it goes. It actually overshoots it. But we're shooting for that measured move. It ended up having to pull back and push up one more time to get it, but it did work out. And you get once you come off this upper side, you get a little channel working down here. It's hard to tell if you get a close outside there. It's real close. Looks like a close outside, but that's just a first entry, and then you get a second entry long here that fails, but you've got to close out here, and if you make a new low and it bounces, the odds are you're probably headed lower. That's generally what's going to happen. But you can see here, prices don't always do what you think they're going to do, and they just went sideways. So if you did take that short right there, when it came back down again and it couldn't go lower, I would exit there or the next time. I mean, you had several opportunities to get out of that with even maybe a tick or two. And I would have definitely taken them if it started going sideways like that. I don't think I'd enter long or short here. Maybe once we had the reversal here, but that's after 2 o'clock. But by that time, you're still, look how flat that EMA is. So I don't think you want to take any of this in here. I think you just want to skip that. So, like I said, there weren't many trades today. The ones that it was real easy to find it, and the ones that were here were fairly easy to see. And as long as you stayed with the trend, you did, even if you'd have went long on any of these right in here, if you stayed with the trend, you were still okay. As long as you stayed with any of these with the trend, you could have taken them and been okay. All except for this last one here, but even then it came back and gave you a chance to get out when it didn't go higher, and you would have known to exit. So really, if you just stayed with the trend, this is an uptrend, two legs. And if you found the channel, it didn't really help a whole lot other than maybe confirming this upper, this long right here. But it's still, when you can find it that early in the morning, when you can find this off those first two swings that quickly, you really didn't know where the highs were going to be until it made these two swings here. So a little bit before 9 o'clock, I had you had this channel. And when you put it in here, it even fits well here. You can see prices reacting off of it, both sides. And so even that was not real difficult to find this morning. So, but yeah, not a lot of trades today, but fairly straightforward and really not that hard to find these channels. So hopefully you had a good day. If you didn't, study the chart, come back and do it again tomorrow and try to get better. That's how you get better at this, by working on it every day. And then the key, um, somebody sent me a quote today I really liked, and basically that quote said that I'm trying to remember exactly how it was worded, but basically um, hard work from being a trader doesn't start until the market's closed. And if that doesn't make sense to you, think about it. I say it all the time, is that the way you get better at this is studying your charts and studying your trades at the end of the day. And so that's a very true statement, that the hard work doesn't start until the markets close. It's easy to sit here and trade all day. It's hard, the hard work comes when you got to study it, and it starts to get boring. And um, but that's where the hard work comes in, and that's what makes you better. So keep that in mind. But I'm not going to beat around the bush today. Easy day, easy chart lesson. Uh, but we'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.